there was, things that happen sometimes in running for office that you just don't have any control over.
So you think the Democratic Party cares about Black people? Believe it or not, Rex, I think that tweet is part of the problem. Do you feel like we could have addressed this homeless issue much sooner? You have to speak a word, make it a good one.
Okay, let's go.
Welcome back to The Word. Once again, I'm Jackie Rae. We are winding down our political coverage for this upcoming election season with my last interview. Now, remember, we are covering everything. We have some debates coming up. We have Compare Your Candidates at lbpost.com to check. You can check that out. Basically, what I'm saying is make sure you're doing your research before you head to the polls. Make sure you are informed and you make a decision that you feel good about. We're going to do everything we can to help you in that. Now, if you're in District 8, you're definitely going to appreciate this one because it's been some redistricting, and so now this seat is open because Al Austin is completed a very long tenure, so he is on his way out, and so now we have some new blood coming in. So I am very excited for my guest today. Thank you so much for joining me, Tunua Thrash-Ntuk. Nice.
Great. You did
I love it when I get names right on the first try. How you doing? Thank you so much for joining. It's been raining out here, so how are you feeling?
I'm staying dry, and thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to be able to chat with you and get to chat with folks out there.
Okay, so where are you originally from?
So here, right here in LA County, I was born in South Central Los Angeles, about 15 minutes from where I live today.
Okay, so you were very familiar with Long Beach. What made you move to Long Beach?
My family has been here, my husband and his family, I think since the 40s.
Wow.
So the family home is here. We actually live, it's in the 8th district. And his grandparents bought that home years and years ago. He was raised there. His mother was raised there. And now we're raising our kids right in the same neighborhood where all that happened.
Yeah, I was reading your profile on your website, and you said that your grandparents were able to buy a 2-bedroom house because one was a janitor, the other one was a trash truck driver. And so from their membership with the union, they were able to buy a 2-bedroom house. So that's going to be my first question, because even if they are trash truck drivers right now, buying a 2-bedroom house in Long Beach as a trash truck driver and a janitor, not a thing unless you're independently wealthy on the side. Going forward, what do you think we need to do to make sure that people can live and work in Long Beach?
Well, I love that you're asking me that question, because a big part of my platform is making sure that families can live, work, do business, and really raise great families here in Long Beach. And being someone whose family and background is very well connected to the American dream of being able to get a good quality job and then to be able to anchor the family with home ownership. So I believe that we should be able to have folks who are working in our community, working here for the city of Long Beach, be able to purchase homes. And that's also why I helped to ensure that the city of Long Beach brought back its Soft Second program, a program to help with down payment assistance, so that local residents and local workers can use those resources to try and, bring down the cost, at least some, to be able to get into home ownership here in Long Beach.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I've been covering is the wage dispute with the refuse workers. And one of the things when I'm talking to them about how they're trying to negotiate a new salary is, why isn't this automatically built in? We know inflation is real. Why do we have to keep begging for a livable wage? Why isn't the city being proactive in making sure that people don't have to beg and plead for a livable wage?
Well, part of what is so important, and I'm really glad to have, I've been able to get the endorsement of our refuse workers right here in Long Beach. It's really important that we do have champions who recognize and understand the value of work. I mean, we all want our trash picked up. And I know my neighbors are constantly like, well, wait a minute, it's a holiday. What's going to happen? And wanting to make sure that that schedule remains on time all the time. And if that's the case, then we have to make sure that these jobs are attractive, that we can attract high quality folks who want to stay employed with the city. So I don't want our workers to have to beg, and I don't want them to have to do that alone, which is why I'm pleased to be a champion on issues such as this.
Now, you're the president and CEO of Lindustry. Is that correct? Is that the name of it?
So yes, in my professional life, I'm a nonprofit organization president and CEO, and I'm president and CEO of a nonprofit called the Center by Lindustry. The nonprofit organization that focuses in on providing capital access for small businesses, supporting the capacity of small businesses. We also help to finance affordable housing and work on policies that really support and promote living wage jobs, affordable housing, and making sure that there's economic revitalization in communities. So that's the work that we do every day with that nonprofit organization.
And in that capacity, have you had communication with City Council and saying, hey, these are some of the ways that we think you can really help the people of Long Beach? Or have you pitched any ideas at all like that?
That's great that you asked me that because that really connects back to some work that I've done over the years with the city of Long Beach. I was asked by who is now our mayor, but the vice mayor at the time, to really help to lead up something called the Everyone in Economic Inclusion Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And that initiative was all about listening to residents to understand what it is that they need. From the perspective of, I want to be able to buy a house. I want to be able to, have one job and that one job be enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to work with him along with several other leaders here in Long Beach to create a whole policy platform around everyone in. I did that work really in my capacity as both head of an organization, but also as a local resident here in Long Beach. And I'm pleased to say that our city council unanimously took a look at that set of policies and said, yes, these are the kinds of things that we want to do here in Long Beach. And over the last few years, several of those initiatives have actually been funded and have been able to really help support families and anchor them here in Long Beach.
That's great. I'm out in a lot of districts. Most of my friends are in the 6th district, but when I'm out and about and I'm talking to people, especially when they find out I'm a reporter, they just love the chat. And I love that. It's my favorite thing about being a reporter. But oftentimes that I hear a couple of things. One, especially from our Black residents here in Long Beach, they feel like it doesn't matter at all if they vote because, and I found this too as a journalist, when you really start saying, hey, Black people have specific needs, when you really try to say, this is very specific to this community. Usually other communities, they get a little bit of a reprieve and they can move forward with saying this is specifically us. But as Black people, there's, especially in city council here, it always seems to be like, oh, wait a minute, wait a minute. They don't really want to talk about that. So going into city council, what would you say to Black people, especially who are kind of throwing their hands up in the air and saying, it doesn't matter, no one's going to listen to us?
So I'm not sure who that is or where that sort of sentiment is coming from. One of the things that Long Beach can stand on is the fact that we've got Cal State Long Beach here, one of the premier African American departments in the country, with the university and the faculty there having helped create Kwanzaa and all of the celebrations around that. We've got an African American cultural center that the current councilman in this area is working on and making sure that there's a champion on. So there are lots of opportunities. And me personally, I'm very involved in organizations throughout our community. And when it comes to those that are connected to the Black community, I've got several that I'm connected to, one of which I'm actually the president of here in Long Beach. So the good news is that there are, a champion in me in terms of making sure that issues that are important to Black people in this community are uplifted. But those issues are so very connected to what it means to be able to live with dignity in the city of Long Beach and having, again, quality jobs, being able to live in safe neighborhoods, and having access to housing that people can actually afford. All those things, I would hope that all folks that are out there understand, believe, and know that their vote makes a difference, and who they vote for and the knowledge that that person has, the leadership that person can provide, can really make a difference in a city like ours.
As you are going out and canvassing and talking to people, what is a common theme that you're hearing?
So yes, I've been knocking on doors for months now, and some of these are doors that I've knocked on before and in the past, either for myself or other candidates here. So a lot of families that we know here in the 8th district. Many of the residents that I'm speaking with are saying to me that they want someone who has the ability to really tackle homelessness. That's a critical issue. As someone who served on the Housing California board, who has been selected to go internationally to study homelessness so that we can bring back new ideas and great ideas on how we can make a difference here. I hear people saying that they want to be in a community that is safe. And safety means not just having police as part of that, but it's also activating our commercial corridors and making sure that we have eyes and feet and hearts and hands and resources on the street so that people are able to have a vibrant community. I hear people say that the rent is too high
Mm-hmm.
and they need help and support with making sure that there is more housing that's being built so that they can anchor themselves and their families. And then for some folks, I do hear about the issue of a living wage and making sure that there is an opportunity to try to tackle the growing income inequality and opportunity inequality in our city. We've got some great jobs here in the city of Long Beach, and I'd love to see 8th District residents be able to take advantage of those
Mm-hmm.
opportunities.
So when you traveled internationally to get a new perspective on how to tackle homelessness, what was something that you learned?
So I had the pleasure of being selected for an international fellowship to go over to Europe and specifically over to Vienna to really study the kind of housing that they're
Mm.
putting in place. And what we found there is that housing for those who need affordable housing, the state is helping to provide some of that. And it is the housing of first opportunity. It's not the housing of last resort. Here we find that some housing that is developed by the state is housing that maybe people don't want to be in because it's not maybe as well kept as we'd like it to be. And it also concentrates poverty. So, in the other places, there is an emphasis on creating neighborhoods where all kinds of people can live together, different income levels, giving families an opportunity to get connected with others and see what other lifestyles are like. And so that is something where we've got to think about, how do we finance that? How do we create a different mindset? And one of the mindsets that they have there is that everyone is
Mm.
housed. And we just aren't quite there yet here in this country. And I'm, definitely continuing to look for strategies that we can build upon from other places because we've got to come at this from different angles than we're doing right now.
Yeah, so from the outside looking in, what do you think that city council thus far has done right in regards to our unhoused, and what do you think they could really do better?
So I'm really proud to have served as Mayor Rex Richardson's co-chair of his transition
Mm-hmm.
committee, where we were definitely in favor of the city calling for an emergency on homelessness. And so I think the city's done a great job with that. That emergency has allowed us to be able to put resources right where they're needed. Having our own public health department also gives us a lot more flexibility and ability to go ahead and tackle homelessness right on the streets here in Long Beach. So I think that's great, and continuing to invest in that is really important. And I would say going forward, there are some countywide resources that are becoming available with new county agencies that have dollars. And I'd want to make sure that Long Beach is pulling down its fair
Mm-hmm.
share as the second largest city in this county. We want to make sure that we're getting our full amount of resources so that we can continue to target the places, the people that need the support, and to be able to make sure that we're building the housing so they have somewhere to go and we can keep them from being back on the street
Mm.
again.
I think I've said this in just about every interview I've done that I feel like my attention to detail when I'm driving has increased exponentially since I moved to Long Beach, not because of the drivers, but because of the potholes. And I'm trying to make sure that I don't bust a tire in my car because the streets out here are really, really bad. And I know there's a plan in place right now to address the streets that are on their way to being really bad. But to me, that seems like that leaves a lot of neglect left in the city. From your perspective, what can the city do better to make sure that it's not an obstacle course for the residents out here when they're driving on these Long Beach streets?
Well, you're not alone. I have had my fair share. Tires are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, They are too expensive and unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I'm seeing as I'm walking around the neighborhood, and I think it's really important that I'm out there and walking and seeing our streets. There are some neighborhoods that I know have not been paved for
Right.
decades, and that has got to change. While it might be cheaper and faster to be able to plug a pothole here and there are whole neighborhoods that have been held hostage by that strategy. I'm very interested in, as the local council person, making sure that I have a good sense as to when was the last time key streets in certain areas within our district have been done, and then really, work with the community to figure out what is our priority. And is if our priority is to get streets fully redone in certain areas that haven't seen that pavement, then that's what we're going to be working
Mm-hmm.
on.
I've read several studies too that when we're talking about crime, it says one of the things that kind of impacts crime, and it's something so small, but it makes perfect sense when you talk about blight and having things that are run down, graffiti everywhere. It seems to just invite crime. Do you think that that's an area that we're kind of not addressing properly when it comes to deterring crime within our cities, especially our neighborhoods that have a high crime rate?
So you're referring to the broken window syndrome. And I mentioned it earlier as I was talking about the need to really activate our commercial corridors. We've got one of the things that you could consider it a plus in our community, and that is plenty of storefront space for new businesses to open and operate. And so I'm looking forward to being able to recruit those businesses, given the kind of work that I do. I'm in contact with a lot of those businesses so that we can activate those streets. And I do believe that having the street level excitement and energy and businesses open creates a level of accountability among
Right.
all of us, and creates a bit of certainty around what should and could be happening in the commercial corridor. When there's nothing there, you invite a lot of uncertainty, and that uncertainty could then lead to some activity that maybe we don't want to see in our wonderful neighborhoods here in the north.
So, in a perfect world, in your first 90 days, if you win, what would be something that you want to look back and said, yes, I accomplished this right out the gate, just like I planned? What would that be?
So I am looking forward to having my own first 100 days in office, and having had the experience of putting together a plan before for the entire city has given me a great blueprint on what I could do here in the district, which I think people will be able to see, feel, and really hear about. So for me, and what I'm hearing from neighbors regarding things that they'd like to see happen, first and foremost, just like I encouraged for our entire city to bring all neighborhood leaders together through the mayor's first 100 days, I would want to do the same here in our district, bringing those leaders together. In addition to that, I love to do a neighborhood by neighborhood assessment and then put together a 100-day plan just for those specific neighborhoods. So, because every neighborhood is slightly different and has different needs. Some neighborhoods need and want to reactivate a neighborhood
Mm-hmm.
association. Some have parks that they're very concerned about. Some have, crime in certain areas that they're very concerned about. Others have issues related to housing that they really want to work on. So those are some of the things that I would do in terms of the twofold and bringing the neighbors to get neighborhood leaders together, and then also doing a neighborhood by neighborhood assessment. I also don't want to leave out our small businesses. I talked about how I am very focused on that in my professional life. And if we're going to activate our commercial corridors, we've got to invest in those small businesses and really understand what they need.
Mm-hmm.
So I've already had the chance to talk with several of them. There's so many wonderful gems here in the 8th district that folks don't even know about. And I think if we could let the rest of the city know, that could also help support those small businesses. So I want to be able to activate them. And then if the topic is potholes, that's district wide. If the topic is public safety, that's district wide. Really identify a couple more issues that we as a district decide are priorities for us, and really serve as that champion that walks the walk with local residents to make sure we've got a plan and a plan that we are consistently following up on to see the kind of results that people here in the community want to achieve.
Now, you ran in 2020 against Al Austin, and you're running again now. Are your reasons for running the same? And can you tell me why you're running again?
So it takes a whole lot to decide to come back um, to run again. But I will tell you, in 2020, I do believe that this district was ready for my leadership. And I specifically wanted to be the kind of leader who was responsive to community and responsive to the needs of the residents here. The north part of our city, and especially the 8th district, we've got, some would say underutilized lots. I would say, a great opportunity for new business and new energy to be brought into our district. And so some of those issues are very much the same. I live in this community. Frankly, for a good part of the day, I work in this community because I might be at home. And I am running because we need a leader who understands on day one how to make change in this community and as someone who is deeply cares about the people that are here in this area as well.
With that, I want to ask you kind of a tougher question because during that campaign, the campaign finance filing showed that you received a $7,000 donation from the California Independent Petroleum Association, which represents 500 petroleum companies in the state. And according to the clerk records, that association did not donate to any other Long Beach City Council candidate for over 8 years. But it just so happened that your husband was the state oil and gas supervisor at the time. And when that originally happened, you said you were surprised by that you had no idea. Is that still their position today? Is that still you're still shocked that they gave you that $7,000 in 2020?
So let's clarify your question. That was not given to me, and it was not given to my campaign. It was given to what people probably know as PACs or an independent expenditure. What that means is that I had no knowledge, no control, or any understanding of that particular entity that received those funds. So, yes, I'm just as shocked as I was then that happened. And it's really important for voters to understand that is something that candidates cannot control. There was, things that happen sometimes in running for office that you just don't have any control over. When it comes to my personal campaign, running for city council this time as well as last time, I'm very proud to say that's all you can find because I have not taken any money from any oil entity for either one of those campaigns. So that is really important for voters to understand. And it certainly is something I've worked on campaign finance reform in the past and would love to limit what PACs can do because it is something that is not good necessarily for the voters and for people to understand, who's really influencing elections. But I would say, please keep in mind that I have been supported this time by the League of Conservation Voters, along with other environmental groups. So my credibility around the environment is very strong, and several third party entities are supporting my campaign here for Long Beach City Council.
So how would you, if you could, in a perfect world, snap your finger, how would you limit the kind of donations that candidates could get?
So now what we're talking about is really federal and
Hmm.
state policy related to the Supreme Court. People may or may not be aware, but the Supreme Court said that a corporation can donate unlimited amounts of money
Right.
to campaigns, which is not good for the average person. To be, just like you and me, at least like me. I don't know, Jackie. I will presume your economic status.
Girl.
Um, for a regular person like me, it's very scary to think that a corporation has unlimited possibilities. And so, like I said, I've worked on campaign finance reform. I do believe that there's got to be or should be a limit to what corporations can do. So that we have more control in local communities around elections. I stand by that.
Hmm. Do you think if we did stuff like that I feel like the public's confidence in government is waning? Do you think that step saying, hey, you can't take this money from these big entities that you're going to be basically beholden to, do you think that would help renew the public's trust in government?
So what you're describing again are issues that me as a city council person, I can't. I'm not legislating. We've
Mm-hmm.
got to definitely call our congressperson to make that change. We've got to get a different Supreme Court to make that change. And I am all for whatever efforts there are to increase a public sentiment around trusting our local government. I'm a public servant at heart. I believe in many of the things that are necessary that government does to protect us from the areas of the military to ensuring our skies are safe to making sure we have roads. All of those are public service ideas that I'm focused on. And so those kinds of questions absolutely should be directed at our federal legislators so that they can make a difference on those topics.
Okay, so let's bring it locally because I still think I basically beg people like please go out and vote, and they're kind of at the point
Please.
where they're like, "Girl, why?" And it's because of the lack of trust they have in their local government. And I'm not going to dive into all the reasons that they told, but I do believe that there should be a very strong and concerted effort into reestablishing the public's trust in local government, since the local government is what matters the most. It impacts your life the most greatly and most immediately. So how can we locally rebuild that trust?
So that is partnership with community. So the work that I do, we work in community with community members, community organizations. It is about listening to what is needed in a community and hearing directly from the people, being honest with people about what's possible, what's not possible, having community and government walk alongside one another and focusing on whatever that solution or issue it is that they'd like to achieve. It's part of why some of my friends, they're like, wow, you're willing to have very much an open book on your life. And I'm like, yes, if I'm going to serve the people in this community, it's important that people know, about my
Mm-hmm,
professional life,
mm-hmm.
my education, what I believe on different topics. I think that that's part of the trust is being very open and being very visible in the community so that people feel like, hey, I can get in touch with her. And you know what? She was honest with me about this particular topic.
I love that you said, say what is possible and isn't possible, because sometimes I think that is the problem. People say, well, let's see. And my dad always says, no is an answer. It might not be an answer you like, but it is an answer. And I think sometimes just saying, no, I can't do that, maybe explaining why, but I think that would go, a really long way. So it's been great to hear your perspective and learn more about you and your ideas. So I do want to take a moment and yield the floor to you, though, and just let you look directly in the camera and tell the people in District 8 why they should earn your vote.
Thanks so much for having me on, Jackie. So I'm Tunua Thrash-Ntuk, and I'm running to be your next city councilwoman. I'm someone who believes that Long Beach should be a great place to live, work, do business, and raise a family, specifically in the north part of the city here in the 8th District. What you'll have in me is a leader with proven track record around building affordable housing, financing it, working to ensure that small businesses are in neighborhoods and have the resources that they need. And given my background, I believe that the American dream is still alive, and we can make sure that both public and private resources are brought to bear to make sure that families can live in this city. And I mean live under more affordable circumstances. Please learn more about me at www.tunua2024.org. That's Tunua2024.org, where you can learn more about my campaign and see who else is supporting this campaign. And I'd love to earn your vote. Thanks.
That was great. You really have done a good job of building relationships. When I was looking on your website, that's one of the things that I can see. I was like, good grief, how many times I'm going to scroll down until I get to the bottom of this list? So you've done an amazing job in doing that. And I've heard you talk about Rex Richardson as well. And that's always something that I worry about when newcomers are coming in. Like, is it going to be this overwhelming experience where you have all these other city council members that have been there for a while and you're kind of the new kid on the block? But it seems like you're kind of just the kid on the block instead of the new kid on the block, and everyone knows you and respects you and appreciates you. And so congratulations on your campaign thus far. I look forward to seeing you on the debate later this week. So I'm excited to see how that goes. But please get to know more about her and make sure you learn and go down that list, y'all. It's a long list of people who really support and endorse her. I think wherever you are in the community, whoever you identify with, there's probably going to be somebody on that list that you're going to go, oh, okay. It's going to make you
I
feel.
think that's right.
She said, I think that's right. So I think it's going to make you feel really good. But whatever you do, make sure you're making an informed decision. I promise you the information is out there. It's just a click away, and we are going to do everything we can to provide that for you. So make sure you're following us on lbpost.com. Once again, I'm Jackie Rae. Remember, if you have to speak a word, make it a good one. We'll see you next time.